Welcome to my next video. In this video, we will be talking about the most important thing to focus on to get better investment returns. This video is part of a 6-part series of videos on how to be a better investor. I highly recommend that before you take any actions based on this video alone, you first check out all the videos in this series. But first, what I say in this video is based upon my education, my life experiences, and my set of values. What I say is for typical people in typical situations. It is not for all people in all situations. If it was, this video would be hours or even days long. My goal and hope is that by the end of this video, you will know more about how to invest so that you can make better decisions for your life. What is the most important thing for us to focus on to get better investment returns? Many years ago, researchers tried to figure this out, and they came up with 3 potential answers. The potential answers were security selection. That's like, am I going to buy or sell Amazon stock? That's security selection. The second potential answer they came up with was market timing. Market timing is like, now is a great time to put money into the stock market or take money out of the stock market. That's market timing. The third potential answer was asset allocation. Asset allocation is like, for retirement, my investment should be 60% in stocks, 40% in bonds. That's asset allocation. Now, when we invest, what do most of us, most of the time, focus on? In my experience, most of us focus on security selection and market timing. But there are some problems focusing on these two. It turns out that over time, selecting securities is really, really hard. And market timing, it turns out that over time, successfully timing the market is next to impossible. So, according to these researchers, what should most of us, most of the time, focus on to be successful investors? Asset allocation. It turns out that asset allocation is what causes about 90% of your investment returns. Let me say that again. 90%. 90%. If you want to be a better investor, you should focus on asset allocation, asset allocation, and asset allocation. Okay, if asset allocation is so important, what is asset allocation and how do I choose my asset allocation? Asset allocation is dividing up your investments among asset categories, like the asset categories we talked about in the last video. Cash, bonds, stocks, those are all examples of asset categories. Okay, so how do I choose my asset allocation? Well, there's the inevitable rule of thumb you may have heard about. The rule of thumb is you subtract your age from 100. And whatever that number is, that should be the percentage that you invest in stocks. Your age is the percentage that you invest in bonds. So if you are 30 years old and you want to follow this rule of thumb, you subtract 30 from 100 and you end up with 70. And that means that 70% of your investments would be invested in stocks and 30% of your investments would be invested in bonds. This rule of thumb, like a lot of rules of thumb, is better than nothing a lot of the time, but we can do better. Many places on the web have information about various asset allocations and their historical investment risk and their historical investment return. Personally, I like to use the website of a low-cost brokerage house called Vanguard, Vanguard with a V, V-A-N-G-U-A-R-D. If you take a look at the asset allocations of stock and bond portfolios, you will quickly notice a pattern, and the pattern is this. Over long periods of time, the higher your stock percentage, the higher your yearly investment return. But asset allocations do not give you the same steady, stable investment return year after year. Remember, as we talked about in prior videos, the higher your investment risk, the higher your investment return. Before you choose any asset allocation, you need to be very sure that you can live with the amount of risk that comes along with that asset allocation. If you choose an asset allocation that has too much risk for you, during the inevitable bad times, it's going to be hard to keep that asset allocation that has too much risk for you. Let me try to make this slightly less theoretical. Over very long periods of time, an asset allocation of 100% stocks, 0% bonds has had the highest investment return, roughly 10% a year before inflation. But that does not mean steady, stable returns of 10% a year, year after year. Oh no. Let's talk about the investment risk of an asset allocation of 100% stocks. In the worst year, it lost 43% of its value. Let's just pause and think about that a little bit. Down 43%. What that means is you start the year and your investments are worth, say, $10,000. And at the end of that same year, your investments, which used to be worth $10,000, are now worth $5,700. You lost $4,300 that year. Gone. Now, after that, are you still going to keep your asset allocation at 100% stocks? Really? What if the stock market went down again the next year? What would you do then? What if the stock market went down 3 years in a row? What would you do then? The point is that if you want to get the long-term investment returns of a certain asset allocation, you actually have to hold those asset allocations long-term. Now, you can take tests on websites that theoretically determine your perfect asset allocation. As we've talked about in previous videos, if you take tests like this, it is very important for you to honestly answer the questions. Remember, most of us, most of the time, we do not like risk. When you choose your asset allocation, I highly recommend that you first focus on the investment risk of the asset allocation. Only if you are really and truly comfortable with the investment risk should you focus on the investment return. In this video, we learn more about how to invest. Specifically, why asset allocation is the most important thing to focus on for you to get better investment returns. This video is the 4th video in a 6-part series of videos on how to be a better investor. If you want to learn more, be sure to check out the other videos in this series and my other videos on many other topics. Until the next video, always remember that you are the best person in the world to decide what is important in your life. Thank you for watching. Please click the button to subscribe. I hope that you got something from this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and comment. Please check out my channel, playlists, and other videos. Have a great day.